What's up, everybody? Welcome to Flames Reaction Channel. So today's video, I'm getting ready to react Lloyd Banks. And with that being said, man, make sure you hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. And let's go ahead and dig into this video and check out Lloyd Banks and some of his greatest moments of hip hop and in music.
There are a few rappers in the game that have had the interesting career arcs such as New York lyricist and former G-Unit soldier Lloyd Banks has had. He truly has cultivated himself quite the career, catalog, and critical acclaim from his peers. While being one of the core members of the hip hop crew G-Unit alongside 50 Cent, Young Buck, Tony Yayo, and The Game, much of his legacy was led through this legendary run that this group had. However, Lloyd Banks did have solo albums and a solo career of his own that differs from any member of G-Unit. He actually released a project a few months ago. Banks' story is one that involves tragedy, fallouts, and it's also a story of rebirth and resurgence, as well as a beef with one of his former childhood friends and former boss, 50 Cent. I mean, were you really ever affiliated with 50 if you don't have some sort of a beef with him? We will be covering this and more as we dive into the recent history of the Punchline King, Lloyd Banks. We have covered G Unit as a group as well as The Game, which is a recent drop, so please be sure to check those out when you get a chance. Also, let us know if there are other G Unit members that you'd like to see, maybe even a video chronicling all of 50 Cent's beefs. But if you want that video, you gotta comment for it. All right, let's get into it.
Already.
Doug.
Sorry about that, everybody.
Christopher Lloyd was born on April 30th, 1982 in New Carrollton, Maryland, but raised in Queens, New York. Being of African American and Puerto Rican descent, Lloyd was close with both his parents. However, his father did spend a large portion of Lloyd's childhood incarcerated. This left a young Lloyd Banks to be on the streets of Queens from an early age. Good thing he became friends with 50 when he was just 9 years old, and it helped him navigate the streets a little bit more freely.
Like, I was walking to the store when I was like 9 years old, and he was, he's about 7 years older than me, so he was already on the boulevard, doing everything he wasn't supposed to.
Hey man, having 50 as one of your OGs in the streets really does sound like a good position to be in, although Banks did have to grow up quick, as from a young age he was forced to look after his little brother and cousins, causing him to develop a deeper sense of maturity than your average 9-year-old. As we will get into it later on in this video, Banks' relationship with his parents is very important. He even once told Jimmy Kimmel about how his mother taught him how to properly put on a condom.
She went down in the kitchen and got a cucumber. She gave me the cucumber, right? And she was like, well, do you know how to put it on? I'm like, I guess so. And I put it on upside down. It wasn't going.
Hey, I guess you got to learn things one way or another, especially in those circumstances, although she for sure sounds like one of those cool moms.
Not like a regular mom. I'm a cool mom.
Not a whole lot else is known about Lloyd Banks' early life before the unit. However, in September of 2001, Banks was shot twice while leaving a nightclub in Southside Jamaica, Queens. He was hit in the back and stomach and got himself treatment at the nearest hospital. What's even crazier about this whole incident is that Banks recalls waking up the next morning in a New York City hospital bed on the day of the 9/11 attacks, and he says he watched the towers fall from his hospital bed. I don't know, that just sounds like a harrowing experience for an event that most people knew exactly where they were and what they were doing when it happened. After Banks recovered is when G-Unit began to form. 50 was taking off as a mainstream solo artist, and once he signed his deal with Shady Aftermath and Interscope, 50 created G-Unit Records. He signed G-Unit as a group, which of course included Tony Yayo and Young Buck. Before 50 signed the deal, Banks was getting busy in the mixtape circuit, showing promise as a lyricist. 50 dropped Get Rich or Die Trying, which saw Banks deliver standout verses on Don't Push Me and the remix to PIMP, which I also think is notable, at least to me, because I think Banks has to set a record for the longest word being spelt out in the middle of a verse. I mean, the dude casually spells out pimp gangster while rhyming and not missing a beat. This was Banks' introduction to the world, and boy did he show improve, because after the 2003 G-Unit group album Beg for Mercy dropped, it was only up from there. Beg for Mercy debuted at number 2 on the Billboard charts,
I remember that album too.
377,000 units on its first week, thus truly establishing that at this point in time we were now in the 50 Cent G-Unit era, and Banks would only continue to add to this display of dominance exhibited by this dynasty when he decided to put out his solo efforts. Now, before we divulge into Lloyd Banks' debut album, I think we need to acknowledge the rapping style that Banks has developed, which has become praised by so many of his peers for years to come. And I think it'd be fair to describe Lloyd Banks as a rapper, meaning he does things that maybe the average fan doesn't pick up on or notice on a first listen. But if you make rap music, you absolutely understand how difficult it is to rap like Lloyd Banks. He has been crowned by many as the punchline king. Most of his lyrics are very bar heavy with these schemes and setups that end in these crazy metaphors or double entendres. This was a style that was very prevalent in New York and the battle rap scene. I mean, if you talk to any Smack URL or King of the Dot professional battle rapper, I guarantee you Lloyd Banks is one of their big influences. People like Fabulous, Lupe Fiasco, Lil Wayne, and Cassidy, and with the newer landscape of how music sounds today, I dare say that this is a severely underappreciated aspect of hip-hop. So I almost feel like the kids today may just never truly understand why Lloyd Banks is so good. I mean, this guy would say things like, I'm going to grab checks and make my cash stretch longer than giraffe necks, or you ain't got to practice gymnastics to catch a body. His verse on Obi Trice's We All Die One Day, or the G-Unit remix on Victory. I mean, these are the type of bars that give you this face when you hear him. You know, I just think it needs to be said, Lloyd Banks is elite when it comes to wordplay and bars. Lloyd Banks dropped his debut album, The Hunger for More, on June 29th, 2004.
That was the best album
and I also
ever
think it needs
by
to be
Lloyd
said.
Banks.
It's called Hunger for Fire. Please say hello.
That album right there, classic, man.
Hey, even the best
Classic.
mess up some names every now and again. But this project is honestly a very special record. It debuted on number one, selling over 400,000 records on its first week, and spawned 3 massive singles, including the smash hit On Fire featuring 50 Cent. This project, top to bottom, really is impeccable. I don't think there's any skips. With features and production from Eminem, Snoop Dogg, and Timbaland, the album has been certified 3 times platinum. Lloyd Banks' second album, The Rotten Apple, was actually supposed to be called The Big Withdrawal, but Banks decided to change things up a bit after tracks were leaked, after he got into a menage a trois and left the demo CD behind for the women to leak online. I know, what a crazy turn of events. The album sold 143,000 its first week, which was considered a failure due to his previous debut numbers. However, 140 for sure are decent sales numbers, but I guess when you work with 50 Cent and you're a G-Unit soldier, he expects better. Singles from this album include The Cake, Help, and Hands Up, which, if you've ever played the video game Saints Row 2, Hands Up was a banger on that soundtrack. Banks had some label disputes with Interscope in 2009, so he subsequently was dropped from the label and put out his third album on G-Unit Records. At this point, Banks had kind of been laying low in preparation for his third studio album, which was titled The Hunger for More 2, a sequel to his debut project. At the top of January 2010, Banks released the street classic Beamer, Benz, or Bentley featuring Joel Santana, which saw much commercial success and served as good promo leading up to the album release, which dropped in November 2010. Other singles include Started Up, featuring Kanye West and Fabulous. Apparently, Interscope tried signing Banks back to the label after the fact that Beamer, Benz, and Bentley started generating so much success. Oh, Jimmy Iovine, man.
This mistake is costing Amazon Prime shoppers big. Are you still using...
Ugh. Needs to be tried for his crimes against hip-hop, I'm telling you.
Ooh, wee, look what that money maker do.
I think it was around this time that one could confidently say that the G-Unit run of dominance was over. 50 was more so known for his business endeavors than being the biggest rapper. The game was booming as a solo artist who departed from G-Unit. Young Buck was beefing with 50, so the status of the group was highly questionable at this point. Even Tony Ayo claimed that the group had broken up. Then the group did make a slight reunion in 2014 when they appeared on stage together at Hot 97 Summer Jam. They would go on to release a collection of singles and mixtapes, but G-Unit broke up again not too long after this reunion. In June 2018, Lloyd Banks left G-Unit Records as announced by 50 Cent on his Instagram, and it didn't immediately seem like the two had any problems. I mean, 50 even encouraged his followers to check out Banks' newest mixtape in the post. Although, as time passed, tensions seemed to really rise between 50 and Banks, or maybe 50 just decided to speak on it. I mean, that man's always choosing violence. Much of the narrative 50 Cent is stating is that Lloyd Banks was lazy and did not have the drive to reach further heights in his rap career, as many people did often ask 50 Cent in interviews, why didn't Lloyd Banks pan out and become a superstar and reach his full potential? In an interview with Big Boy, 50 did have this to say.
He couldn't even tell you, like, at any point when you speak to him what a problem is. I put him, like, where I put Marquise. Like, they just have something internally that's going on with them that gives them some sort of resentment towards me. And
mind you, because a lot of 50 Cent's beef is deep-rooted, 50 is referencing his child Marquise that he has disowned, when he says that this is the category he puts Lloyd Banks in with Marquise. Just adding some context so you guys know the type of human being we are dealing with here. I mean, he did say he would shoot Tony Yayo and Lloyd Banks if they ever dissed him the way Young Buck did.
I don't think that will ever change.
Okay.
I'd be really surprised if they did it. Like, I have someone shoot one of them. I have less compassion than the average human.
50 would continue to denounce Banks and Yayo anytime he was asked about them. He even gave this scathing quote in his quote, "Hustle harder, hustle smarter." He said, "I was out hustling. Banks was more content staying on his porch and watching the world from there. Banks wanted things to come to him, as opposed to going out and getting them for himself. That's not me trying to assassinate his character. The guy has Lazy Lloyd tattooed on his arm. He literally wears his laziness on his sleeve." I think it should be considered that Lloyd Banks did lose his father during this whole process, thus making it really hard for him to enthrall himself into maximizing his career potential. However, someone like 50 Cent, who has that soldier lieutenant mindset, feels like there should have been more reason to motivate Banks to be successful. There was a point where things seemed kind of bleak regarding Lloyd Banks. 50 was tearing him down left, right, and center, and it didn't seem likely that new music was coming out. I mean, he even tweeted out, "Let's be real, ain't nobody checking for Banks anymore," leaving fans wondering if Lloyd Banks was done with music. But to everybody's delight and pleasant surprise, Lloyd Banks released an 18-track album called The Course of the Inevitable, which saw a true return to form with Lloyd Banks giving us fire verses once again, and contained features from Benny the Butcher, Freddie Gibbs, and Styles P. He even spoke about the anticipation of the release on the Joe Budden podcast when he called in saying,
I've been seeing that circulating through social media. They're asking for it.
Yeah.
I'm good though. I'm happy. Put a lot of work into it, and I already know what the fuck it's gonna do.
Banks also seemingly had words for 50 on one of the album's tracks, Stranger Things, where he raps, "Call me quiet, call me lazy, talent never faded. It's frustrating when your grinding ain't appreciated. Should have been dead in my 20s, at least I made it. Guess I gotta prove myself again. Increase your payment." Hey man, the streets wanted more Lloyd Banks, and he delivered in somewhat of a full circle moment, as Banks himself did express he was pretty happy with the reception of his most recent album. As for the rest of this story, I suppose that's a video for another place and another.
All right, y'all. That's it for this video. I'm out. Peace.